Jake Gyllenhaal plays a retired MMA fighter who now becomes a bouncer at the Roadhouse. Does this story sound like something you've heard before? Probably so, because Roadhouse is a remake of a Patrick Swayze 80s film that I absolutely adored. Is this remake worth your watching? I don't know. Maybe so, but let's talk about it.
Before we start, do you have insurance?
What?
Your coverage good? Like, you have dental?
Oh, haha.
Is there a hospital nearby? Is it like too far?
About like 25 minutes, I'd say.
I just slapped you. Are you all right?
What?
So you like to fight? You ever win?
No one ever wins a fight.
So Roadhouse, the remake, stars Jake Gyllenhaal as a disgraced MMA fighter, Elwood Dalton, who gets hired to work at the Roadhouse in the Florida Keys by a business owner who owns this really nice, I want to say that this is one of the best looking bar/clubs that I've ever seen. I would love to have a drink there. I would love to go there and listen to some live music. It's right off the water. It has a nice patio out back. But for some reason, bad people come in there every day and pick fights. And people still go there. I think that that's such a ridiculous aspect of this movie, is the fact that every night it's always packed. It doesn't seem like it's in a very touristy area of Florida. I'm not a big geography expert on Florida, but where it is doesn't seem like a place where tourists are going to go out of their way to patronize. So the locals have to patronize, and maybe it's just the only place in town that they can go. But if every day you're going to the same place and getting beat up by the same people, I would probably just stop going there. But nope, it's a movie. People still go there. So Dalton gets hired, and he gets down to the bottom of why people keep getting beat up in this Roadhouse. It's because there's a seedy land developer who wants to buy the land, but instead of the owner selling, they want to keep it because it's been in her family for generations. She wants to keep this Roadhouse, and it probably is generating a nice little amount of money every day. But this seedy landowner wants to force her to sell by just destroying the bar and making her uncomfortable with her atmosphere, to where she just decides, you know what? I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of getting beat up. And at no point does anybody put hands on her. I think that would have been probably my first step, is I would have sought out the owner in a bar fight, and I would have beat up the owner. That makes the owner not want to own that club anymore. But nobody ever lays a hand on her. They just go in there and just beat people up every night. And finally, we get Elwood Dalton for short, who comes out there, a disgraced MMA fighter, and he just starts laying the beats on all of the bad guys. He takes out 5 guys by just slapping them a few times, which is a hilarious fight, by the way. And yeah, that's the story of Roadhouse. The highlights of the movie, of course, is Conor McGregor, right? He is the talk of this Roadhouse remake. This guy is an absolute menace. Every time he's on screen, he has this goon walk, which I think is fantastic. They make him look so much bigger in the movie, which I find hilarious, right? They make him look like this hulking guy, which he's a very built guy. Conor McGregor is also like 5'6" or something like that. He's very small in stature. But of course, when you surround him by other actors who's that small, he looks bigger than what he is. But otherwise, I mean, the guy is just an absolute menace in this movie. I absolutely love this performance. He's just a guy who gets off on pain. He gets off on beating people up. And he has no morals. He has no scruples. The ultimate wild card in this story is he gets hired to right this seedy landowner's wrongs when all of his guys can't beat up Dalton. He comes in and he's like, I'm going to handle this for you. And he handles it because he hands out ass whippings left and right. And him and Dalton have 2 great fights inside this bar. Both of the fights are very well shot too. I think Doug Liman, who famously boycotted the film because he wanted it to be a theatrical release. I would have loved to see this movie in the theater because it's very bombastic. It's very otherworldly. It's like not based in reality. I don't think anybody has the pain threshold to take what these guys took in this film and still have the quality fight scenes that they had. I mean, these guys had some great fight scenes, and the last fight scene was just epic. Their first fight scene is just epic. Every fight scene that Jake Gyllenhaal is in, he makes it very believable. He's another highlight of the film. Just, the guy's just ripped. And part of the movie just works when it comes to those two characters. They're both opposite ends of the spectrum. You have Jake Gyllenhaal characters, who's a very flawed character. He's a disgraced MMA fighter. And the movie dives into why he's so off-putting or he's so disgraced in the MMA world. But it never really dives into Conor McGregor's backstory. It just jumps right into him just coming in, being this crazy person who just wants to inflict pain on people and impose his will everywhere he goes. Every room he walks in, he has to kind of be the alpha in the room. And I was glad to see him get beat up at the end of the movie. The lowlights. The lowlights of Roadhouse to me were just the rest of the cast. I don't think the doctor, played by Danielle Melchior, I don't think she was as interesting as Kelly Lynch was in the original Roadhouse. I don't think that there was a lot of chemistry between her and Jake Gyllenhaal's character. He just seemed very dead set on his own personal demons, and he didn't seem interested in creating this relationship with her. As with the original Roadhouse, Dalton and the doctor really had a lot of chemistry. They really did seem to be an organic relationship grown as that movie moved forward. But in this film, you know, Danielle Melchior's character, her doctor character, just seemed to be there because you almost had to put her character in this movie for it to still be considered a remake. They also messed up is there was no Sam Elliots elder character. I think he really elevated the original Roadhouse to a different level. And to their credit, I guess you can't replace Sam Elliots, even though you can't replace Patrick Swayze either. But in this film, the secondary characters just didn't seem to work. I remember watching the original Roadhouse, and there was that running joke of, I thought you'd be bigger. And I thought of that as I was watching this movie, and I know the reason why they never said that in this film, because there were no big people in the film. The biggest guy in the film was like the black henchman. He was a chunkier guy, but he was also very short. There was no big people. As a kid, I didn't understand that joke because I'd never been in any bars or any clubs at that point in time in my life. Of course, as I got older and I started going out to clubs and bars, I understood it because all of the bouncers are these hulking guys. They usually get the biggest guys. Now, who this movie is for, it's just action fans. If you like 80s action, 90s action, 2000s action, if you like action films in general, you're going to love this movie. If you love unhinged characters, you're going to love Conor McGregor in this movie. If you're looking for some type of top tier, well-written script, then you're probably not going to enjoy this movie. If you're listening to every word, hoping that it makes sense, you're probably not going to enjoy this movie. But if you want to see people get beat up, if you enjoy a good roughhousing, you're going to enjoy this film. It's beautifully shot. Florida looks fantastic. I don't think they made this movie Florida enough when it comes to the chaos of the Roadhouse, but for all of its flaws, the action works really well. It's a beautifully shot movie. The water scenes, there's a fight on a boat that happens somewhere in the movie, and all of those boat scenes are beautifully shot. It's such a great looking film that I wish I had an opportunity to see it on the big screen. Roadhouse is definitely a wonderfully shot film as well. Have you seen Roadhouse? Did you like Roadhouse? Do you think it measured up to the original? Was it a mistake to remake the original, which is a cult classic in its own right? Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Or was it just meh to you? Go ahead and drop those comments down in the comment section. And of course, before you go, like and subscribe to Have You Seen That with T YouTube channel. I'm also on Letterboxd at Have You Seen That, where I also do movie reviews there. But until next time, I'll catch you later.